Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your patience as we got started this morning. We do have some refreshments now here behind me to my left, if you'd like to help yourself at any time. So, as Angelique said, my name is Jan Brito. My business partner is Laura Quigley. We are Capital Senior Solutions, which is a division of Brito Associates of Compass. It's opportunities like this that allow us to really help older adults with late in life decisions, whether that be to age in place or to move or to downsize. You may be wondering what qualifies us to speak on this topic, and so I'd like to spend just a little bit of time talking about that. And I mentioned real estate, but please know we're not here to list your house. We're not here to ask you to use our services. Our goal is simply to educate this population on the various aspects of downsizing and aging in place and all things senior. It's our passion, we love it, and if you decide to do business with us, all the better, but that's not why we're here. So I just want to make that clear. Our number one goal is to educate you and to advocate for you. So how are we qualified to speak on this topic? Well, Laura and I both are certified senior housing specialists and certified senior downsizing coaches. We found ourselves over the last few years working with more and more older adults and their families in this process. So we sought a higher level of education and understanding so that we could be of more service. We found the Seniors Real Estate Institute out of Oklahoma City and proceeded to take a very, very rigorous year-long course in working with older adults. We had to do focus groups, we had to tour all different types of communities and document our tours, we had to get letters of reference. And once we completed the course, we then had to sit for an interview with the review board of the Institute, because they just don't want you to only complete the course. They want to know that you have a heart for serving seniors. Fortunately, we got their blessing and we were bestowed the designation. We also got certified as senior downsizing coaches because I'm sure many of you have been thinking about this for a long time, possibly even years, and sometimes that's what it takes, and it's nice to have someone that can coach you and support you over the years that you're thinking about making a move. We are senior real estate specialists, of course, that's the basic designation, but I really wanted to spend some time emphasizing our advanced education on this topic. So we are here to try to make things easy for you. The subject is Downsizing Made Easy. When I say downsizing, what do you think of? What does that mean to you? Anybody? Getting rid of stuff that you might have to move to a smaller place. Yes. Anybody else? I think stuff is always a big stumbling block for people because, you know, the first thing you think about when you want to think about moving is, oh my God, what do I do with all this stuff I've collected for 50 years? And the thing that we want to emphasize to folks is that you should start the planning process while you can still make the decision for yourself before something occurs that causes someone else to make that decision for you. You want to be able to be the one in charge. Who likes being told what to do, right? So just a couple other quick things. We do these seminars on a monthly basis. They're usually the second Wednesday of every month. They're at various locations. We have some other topics coming up called Living, Dying, and Leaving a Legacy, Communicating with Adult Children, and Probate for Property Owners. I'm going to be announcing on August 17th the start of our Downsizers Club, which is a small support group for folks who are thinking about it and maybe several years out, but it's an opportunity to meet with your peers and the coaches to talk through the emotional and other aspects of considering downsizing or even aging in place. So we do have some sign-up sheets at the front desk if you're interested at all in attending or being on our mailing list for the Downsizers Club. Just sign up on your way out. So the first step in the process is to create a plan that fits your lifestyle and your future needs. As I mentioned, downsizing doesn't necessarily mean moving. You might want to downsize and age in place and make some modifications to your current home so you can be comfortable there. So we are going to talk about primarily the 5 steps to downsizing. There are a lot more steps, of course. And once you meet with us, you will be the recipient of this Downsizing Made Easy guide that we've put together, which is quite extensive and covers a lot more than we're going to talk about today. And to have a successful move to downsize not only means physically, but also emotionally. So we're going to talk about why downsize at all.
So the first step is creating a plan. And that Jan has already said, like, why downsize at all? Like, what does that mean? And what we really think of downsizing, two aspects. Yes, there is time when you want to, yes, it could be going from that large family home that you had to a more accommodating living space, something smaller, something more easy to manage. But it could also be taking the current space and making it more comfortable for you to stay in that space. So we really look at it as multiple ways to do that. And there's three primary reasons that people decide to downsize. The first one being social engagement. And I think we all know with COVID, that really was hard for all of us, the lack of social engagement. When we've been in these larger family homes and we've raised our family and we've had so much activity going on, and then our kids grow and move on, and now we're there, it can become very isolating. You don't realize it. Those connections that you've made may not exist anymore, and you could be isolated in your home. So a lot of people, to stay healthy, social engagement's important. At any age, we need social engagement. So one of the number one reasons that people choose to downsize and possibly move to a community is to increase their social engagement. The second reason is the house can become a burden. And one of my clients said this to me recently, and it made me really pause, because I'm at this point in my life. And they said, first, we own a house, and then the house owns us. Think about that for a minute. First, you own the house. You're all excited. You got your first house. Although those maintenance things don't bother you, right? It's your house. And then over time, pretty soon, you got to get that grass mowed. You've got to, hire a plumber. You have to constantly be thinking about what needs to be done in this house. So it can become a burden. I'd say in my own personal life, I have a retired husband whose mantra is, a man cleans his own gutters. Does anybody hear me in this? A man cleans his own gutters. I don't want this guy on a ladder cleaning gutters. It's not safe. And it causes me so much stress. So it's just not a healthy situation. You know, stress can lead to health issues or tension in your marriage. I will say that I have snuck in somebody to clean the gutters when he's not home, but there are ways around it. But that's why I mean when the house can become a burden, just that stress of managing it. Then the last reason, and it's actually kind of interesting to think about this, is health and wellness. Okay, so you might be a little socially isolated, you might be stressed about taking care of your house, but you also may end up in more of a sedentary lifestyle. And you also may not be having the best nutrition. Because, face it, either you've been cooking for 30 years and you don't really want to do it anymore, or you don't really care about it that much anymore. So people's health can decline when they're isolated. Whereas when you're in a community, you don't even have to think about that anymore. Healthy options are available for you. So those are really the three primary reasons. You may have other personal reasons yourself. Why? So unfortunately, what we find is sometimes people end up in a reactive mode at this point, rather than a proactive mode. Okay? Rather than figuring out what's going to come next, a crisis happens, a fall happens, you're hospitalized, you can't go back to your home. So what we're going to talk about today in step one is creating that plan in advance so that you're in charge.
So like Laura said, step one is to create a plan. So, this might be the time to start researching different types of communities, perhaps touring communities, consulting family members or professionals that advise you. But like I said earlier, you want to start this while you're still able to make the decision for yourself, rather than being forced to do something you might not be so happy with. So I'll let Laura take it back over.
Okay. All right. So think of today as step one, day one. Okay? No pressure here. You don't have to move today. You don't have to move tomorrow. You don't have to move for years. But today you can start thinking about what makes the most sense for you. So you think about, where do I start? What questions should I ask? What should I do? And we talked about, do you want to make the decision? Do you want someone else to make the decision? So here's some things to start thinking about. What type of lifestyle do I want or do I need? For example, Do you want to be in an urban setting where you can walk to get a cup of coffee or your doctor's appointments? Or would you rather look out on greenery? Would you prefer not to be around a lot of people? Do you want social interaction? Do you want to have clubs and activities and field trips? Or would you prefer to be left alone and only have a small group of people you socialize with? Your finances. I'm going to walk you through all of those terms that you've been hearing about in terms of living situations. What do they cost? Does it make sense for you? Do you have the financial resources to move into the type of community or neighborhood that you'd like? You can start figuring all of those things out now. And what's necessary to prepare for a future move. We often run into people that say, I want to move to Oregon. I'm going to move to California. I'm going to move near my grandchildren. Well, you can start thinking about that now and figuring out, what does that look like? Are there communities for you there? Are there living situations that would make sense for you in that community? So it's all about making that plan. And I know it sounds easy for me to just throw those words out there, but it's not that hard. You can do it. So this is like my absolute favorite slide of the presentation, because I just look at this woman and look at her hand on her chin, and she kind of looks like all of us going, what is she talking about? Like, look at all of these options, right? I'm going to act like I know what I'm thinking, but I'm just going to stand here. So I think we should have a second slide by the time I'm done with her smiling, going, oh, I get it. Now I know what she's talking about. So the first thing I want to mention is downsizing does not mean moving to a senior community, unless that's what you want. Downsizing could just mean moving to a more manageable space. And you can do that many different ways. So the first way is like where we live. Think of all the options we have. We have condos, we have townhomes, we have apartments. These are located in more metropolitan areas, like, for example, Friendship Heights, where you could have lots of walkability. So if you want to maintain your independence, but you're like, I just don't want to worry about cleaning gutters anymore, there are options out there for you. And I don't know, has anyone heard of the concept of villages? Okay, so villages is really a grassroots movement for people aging in place. Neighbors helping neighbors. There's over 26 villages within Montgomery County. There's one in Friendship Heights, there's one in Bethesda, Rockville, Silver Spring, you name it, Chevy Chase. And in fact, Jan volunteers at the Chevy Chase Village and helps drive people to appointments who no longer want to be driving, but need to get somewhere. So again, neighbors helping neighbors. So that's something to think about. It doesn't have to be that move to a community. You could find a way to feel more comfortable in your environment by downsizing to a different type of living situation. The next thing I want to talk about is planned adult communities. So a planned adult community, you've probably heard the term 55 plus communities, 62 plus communities. They're all over the United States. And what they mean is you have to be a certain age to live there. Or at least one, if it's a couple, one of the partners has to be 55 and over. It's not a community for children, for teenagers, young adults. It's a community of like-aged people who can then share in social interaction. They typically might have a golf club or a pool or just a social center. In a 55 and over community, you own your property. So they typically have lots of options. They might have a single family home. They might have a garden apartment. They might have a high-rise apartment. So you purchase your next place, you move in, you're with your peers, and you have a lot of social interaction. What you don't have is medical support. This is truly your independent living in this community. Some of the examples that we have around here, people probably have heard of Leisure World. Leisure World offers all different types of living. And then there's a new community up in Urbana called the Woodlands of Urbana that's under construction. And that has single family homes, townhomes, and condos. But again, it has that age restriction. So there are options for you if that sounds like something you want. This area that I'm going to talk to on the slide, these are all like senior living type communities. And I'm going to walk through them one at a time, although typically you may find them bundled together. So you might have an independent community and an assisted together, or an assisted and a memory care together. But I'm just going to talk you through, what to expect for each type of community. And when I'm done with the slide, I'm going to open it up to questions, because I know I'm talking a lot and giving you a lot of information. So let's first talk about independent living. The key word here is independent. You typically have to qualify to move into independent living. So if you've had a health crisis or you need a higher level of care, independent may not be the right fit for you, and you may not be able to move into independent. So oftentimes we counsel people, if you think that's what you want to do, you might want to start looking at those options now. Independent means independent. You have your own place, your own house keys, come and go as you please, parking. They typically will offer housekeeping, maybe some kind of dining arrangement, might have a dining room, some kind of meal plan. Independent tends to have their own kitchens, so if you still want to cook, it's like having an apartment. Sometimes I think of it as like going back to college, but you don't have to study. Okay, you got a nice place to live, good food, and a lot of friends around you all the time. So that's sort of what I think of independent living. And in fact, where we are today, Ringhouse is independent living for the Charles E. Smith communities. So when you're kind of looking around today and you go and you leave, you see this is what a typical independent living community would look like. The next level is assisted living. Now, assisted living, they are state licensed communities. They're private pay. They're not covered by insurance, which a lot of people have that question. You may have, if you have long-term health care insurance, you may be able to put some money towards that, but typically they're not going to be covered under your health care insurance plan. They're licensed by the state, and there's different levels of care and licensure for assisted living communities, meaning they can offer different levels of care. So, for example, it's really to help people. I'm sure you've heard the term activities of daily living. So it might be someone who might need some help dressing, med management, that type of thing, bathing. So they're going to provide those services for you. Typically, you don't have a kitchen. It's 3 meals a day. You don't have to worry about cooking. You are independent. You can come and go as you please. They're typically rental models. So it's a rental fee. And I'm sorry, let me jump back to the independent. Independent can be a rental model or a purchase model. But assisted living is a rental model. If you need more care in assisted living, typically you can contract for caregivers to come in and help you. But the licensing of that community limits, the medical type procedures or medical situations that you could be in. So if you go and look at assisted living, and there's so many around here, those are good questions to ask. Here in this community, in the Charles E. Smith communities, Landau House is assisted living. The next level is the skilled healthcare community. That's your typical nursing home. You've heard that term over the years, nursing home. That's going to be 24-hour care, licensed. That's when you need a high level of care or long-term care. And it's not necessarily for people of a certain age. This community is for all ages based on someone's medical condition. Very often, skilled nursing also has a rehabilitation component, physical therapy component. So, for example, someone may have had some sort of injury, been hospitalized, not quite ready to go home. So they'll go into a skilled facility like this to get rehabbed before they're allowed to go home and able to manage at home. Again, I said it's not age restricted. This would typically be covered under some sort of insurance plan. The Hebrew Home of Greater Washington is a skilled nursing facility here on this campus. Okay. Next, we have memory care. And now this is I won't say it's a brand new concept, but it's a relatively new concept to help us with our family members who may have some diminished mental capacity. These are typically standalone communities that just focus on people who may need assistance because they're having some mental acuity issues. If you haven't visited any one of these, and I have because I have Alzheimer's in my family, it's a really beautiful thing because these are people specially trained to help people through this phase of their life. There's a number of them out there. Like I said, they're relatively new. The nice thing is, Charles E. Smith has that also. They have two different things. They have connections at Landau House, where it's the assisted living with the memory care component. But they also have this unique, it's called the Cohen-Rosen House. And that's where 18 people can live in a community together who are having this issue and get the care that they need and have a high quality of life. Lastly, I don't know if you can see the bottom of the slide, continuing care communities, CCRCs. You've probably heard that term. So a CCRC takes all of this and puts it on one campus, okay? One campus. So it takes from independent through. Any care that you could need is all on one campus. A traditional CCRC, you come in at the independent level. It may be a purchase, that you purchase where you're going to live. It may be that you make some sort of capital contribution to move into the community. Then if you are to move out, you get some percentage of that back. They're all a little different, but typically there's some upfront investment. But if you need care, you've come in at independent, you're guaranteed that if you go through this continuum and need any of these levels of care, you don't have to go anywhere else. You are covered within that life plan community. And there's several in the area. And in fact, Charles E. Smith is sort of a non-traditional CCRC, because at Charles E. Smith, one thing that's different is their independent living is a rental model. You don't have a big upfront cost. You do get priority for these other cares, but they do accept people in to the community, like if you just needed assisted living. You don't have to come into independent living to get there. So they're kind of a hybrid CCRC, life care community, but they have a little bit of everything. So I've been talking nonstop for like 20 minutes. Questions? Yes?
Hi, I'm in Kaiser Permanente, and so if I needed some of this kind of care, how would that work with Kaiser?
Typically, any insurers only start paying at the skilled healthcare community level. Typically, independent and assisted living is private pay. It would be a question to ask them and try to find out now if they have any other type of plan that you could sign up for now. But yes?
Can you repeat the question out loud, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. She had asked, she has Kaiser Permanente, and how would they pay for these types of services? So what I'm saying is that's a really good question for your insurer, but what we find is typically, unless you have long-term care insurance, the first two steps of independent and assisted, you're private paying for those. They may pick up, if let's say you're in assisted and then you need some kind of therapy, that may be covered under your healthcare insurance. But the actual cost of living is typically not. Yes?
We have a question from an online viewer named Phyllis. Is Riderwood a CCRC?
Yes, it is. Oh, I'm sorry. Is Riderwood a CCRC? Yes, it is. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to hand this back to Jan. Oh, I'm sorry.
One more question. You talked about the village concept. I live on the eastern shore of Maryland. We don't have those. It's just a comment.
Just a comment, yeah.
Do you know of any options perhaps on the eastern shore?
I'm happy to do some research if they want to reach out to me and see what I can come up with. It is a relatively new concept, and like I said, it's sort of growing organically, and neighbors helping neighbors, so they are popping up everywhere. I just saw in the neighborhood I live in, they're just creating one. So it might even be something that she can get involved in to start to put together. But it is a really wonderful concept, I think. All right, so that's only step one. So the question was shared living. Like, are there any companies or agencies, or is there a way to find out if you could find a way to share living with someone? And that's a relatively new concept, and there's a lot of buzz about it, a lot of talk about it. Jan and I have talked to different people that are trying to create something like that. Happy to talk to you more about what we've learned, but we don't see a clear path right now of like, go here or go there. Sometimes it's to be honest, sometimes it's just as much as Craigslist, where someone says, I'm looking for a roommate. All right, so I'm gonna thank you for your patience with me walking you through all of that. If you have personal questions or your personal situation you want to talk about, please feel free to talk to Jan and I offline. We're gonna stay till the very end, till every question's answered. And we're also very accessible if you want to give us a call. There's no obligation on this. We have spent 2 years now touring all the communities that are out there. So we feel like we have a pretty strong sense of how they differentiate from each other. And you might have a specific need you're looking for, and we can maybe help point you in the right direction. We don't work with any of the communities. We're not paid by communities or anything like that. It's just for our own ability to help our clients understand what their options are.
Now that you know your options and say you've chosen one, or maybe you've decided to stay put, but now it's time to communicate with your family. And I don't know about you, but not all families communicate that well. Some well-meaning adult children might feel like they need to tell you what's best for you and where you should go next. Well, we'd like to reverse that and have you make your own plan and then tell your children what your plans are. In the handout we gave you for today's material, there is a sample letter you could share with your children. So the conversation might go something like, honey, we've been thinking about downsizing and moving to a smaller space, and we've toured 3 or 4 communities, and we've chosen X community, and we're planning to move within the next 6 months. Any questions? So you are in charge. In our Downsizing Made Easy guide that I referred to earlier, we have a lot more information on communicating with your family. But that is an important step to take, just to let your family, whether it's children or other well-meaning family members, know that you're on top of this, you have a plan, you know what you want. That takes us to step 3, making sure you have the support you need to help make the move as simple as possible. And I've given Laura just a little bit of a break from talking, but I'm going to bring her back up now.
So as you can see, step 1 is the longest step, right? Making the plan, figuring it out. Step 2, communicate with your support, your friends, family, whoever is supporting you in this. Be clear on what you want to do. And then step 3 is, oh my goodness, what happens now? Let's say, for example, you've gone on a wait list, and now you get that phone call that the place you want is ready, and you have 2 months. And that's not atypical. That typically is what happens. You have a certain period of time to kind of sort of get yourself together and figure out how to move into this new community. Or you've changed your mind, and you've said, I didn't think I wanted to move for 2 years, but I'm ready, and I want to do something. So the question is, what happens next? First thing I want to say is, have some support. Everyone needs support when making a move, no matter your age. The first time you moved out of the house, the first time you bought a house, we all need support through this process. Moving is not easy. It's a big life transition. So I'm going to talk about kind of some of the levels of support. And I would say that this is sort of the point when people kind of get paralyzed. Up until this point, they're feeling really good. Made my plan, I'm ready to go. And then they're like, oh my gosh, did you look at the basement recently? Like, what do I do? What am I going to do with all of this stuff? The next step, and this is something, the reason we're talking about it today, is don't do this when you have a 2-month deadline to move. Start thinking about this now. Thinking about who are the pieces of this puzzle that you would need to help you through this process. And this is just sort of a list of, Jan and I have vetted all of these types of resources. We wouldn't use them, we would only use them for our own parents or for ourselves. And we project manage this for our clients. We don't just hand you a list and say, oh, go have so-and-so cut your grass. No, we're going to help you figure this part out. I do want to spend a minute on one topic here. It's called a move manager. Has anyone heard that concept before? Okay, some of you have, some of you haven't. This, I'm going to tell you, is life-changing. Move managers are life-changing. I wish I had known about them for years. Their job is to make your move easy. Okay, what are they, movers? I'm going to tell you a story. I think the best way to describe it is just tell a story of one of my clients and what this looked like for her move. It was a client of mine. She was recently widowed, and she decided to sell that long-term family home and move into an independent living situation. We introduced her to a move manager. They clicked, they hit it off, and the move manager came in to make the process simple for her. A day or so before the move, her daughter came into town. And I don't know about you, but I think we all have someone in our family who I call them the ones who swoop on in to save the day, right? I do that in my family. Who needs you? Aunt Laura's going to show up and take care of you. So her daughter swoops in, and she is ready. So the morning of the move, we go over just to kind of have coffee and situate what's going to happen for the day. And man, her daughter's ready. She's got her jeans on, her sneakers on, her sweatshirt. She's ready to pack boxes. She's ready to tell her mom what she should take with her. And we had to say to her, you don't have to do that. Because what the move manager has done is created a floor plan for the place that she's moving to, and has created where everything is going to go, where every picture is going to be hung, where every piece of furniture is going to go, and they're trained to do this, organized to do this, and say, this is going to be a wonderful environment for you. And so they figured out what stuff has to go. So the day of the move, the stuff that's going has to get moved. But all that other stuff that you're not taking, you don't have to worry about that yet. Just take what you want. Typically people settle in for a few days and say, oh, you know what, I really wish I'd brought that bookcase. But you have little time. So the donor didn't have a role. She was going to tell her mom what to do. She didn't have it. So instead, they went out to lunch. They did a little shopping for the new place. They came back in the afternoon. In this case, they stayed in the house overnight because there were some extra beds in the house that were not going to go. The next morning, they did that again. They hung out. They didn't have anything to do because at around 2 or 3 o'clock that afternoon, it was like an HGTV show. They went to the new place. They opened the door. It was done. Pictures were hung. Bed was made. Towels were in the closet. Spices were in the spice rack. It's done. And she could move in. So all of that inner family stress of the move didn't occur. When she got there was no wrapping paper on the floor or bubble wrap or boxes to get around or weeks to take to find, your favorite blouse. It's all done. So, like I said, I think they're miracle workers. I highly recommend, if you're trying to go from a large space to a smaller space, that you think about that as a concept to help you figure that out. Because they're creative and can figure out ways to fit all your stuff in that you want to take with you. What happens with all the stuff you left behind when you can't donate it or you can't find people to come in time? Well, one of the steps that I talked about is the move manager helps you move out, then comes back and figures out how to get rid of everything else. So you don't have to be taking books to the library to donate. We have a lot of resources besides a wider circle that can help figure out this stuff. So we'll go through that with you. People typically either want to sell things if they have value. They might want to do an estate sale, something like that. Donate to a good cause. And there are some that are loosening up. I know Habitat for Humanity has started to pick up again. But we actually gave you, a resource that has some information on that.
Yeah.
And we can...
Disposal resources.
Yeah. Call us. We've got a lot of creative ideas on this. We have a junk caller. His name is George. Let George do it. George just he'll come and get it for you. Take it. We also work a lot with a company called 123 Junk, and their whole mantra is to you have to pay for the disposal. Right. They come, but their whole thing is trying to donate. They keep warehouses full of furniture, and a wider circle will go to their warehouse and take. So the comment is there's options like Free Cycle or Buy Nothing on Facebook. From a practical standpoint, we're cautious about those, and we would work with you on them, possibly to do this after you have moved out, so you limit any kind of strangers or interaction in your home. Right. And we can be there for those types of things, or have somebody with you. We highly recommend, even if it's free, the person coming to get it, you might want to be concerned about. The person was commenting that sometimes moving into a CCRC, they may either recommend or they may give you that service of move management. And there probably are people we know, and that's something you can ask when you're negotiating to move there. Will they provide this service for you? How much does a service like move management cost? I have to tell you, we're not move managers, so I don't want to kind of step over the line into that. What typically move managers do is they'll come, they will not charge you to come for a consultation, and you'll talk to them and work through what it is that you need to have done, and they will give you a full written estimate ahead of time. So there's no surprises. And it really comes down to how much service do you want from them? You know, do you want the whole gamut of everything, or do you just want certain things taken care of? And like I said, we have people we recommend. We also, sometimes we have clients who are just not sure, and Jan and I will fund a couple hours just so you can kind of get a taste of it, see if it fits for you, and if it's something that you want to do. Because that's how important we think it is. Other question? Yes.
Well, but this is a perfect segue, because guess what step 4 is? What do we do with all the stuff? So you do have this handout that you picked up on the way in. It's a list of disposal resources for, you know, paint, hazardous waste, prescriptions, things like that. It's donation resources, where to send different types of things, medical equipment, sports equipment, so forth. Somebody mentioned that Wider Circle has a really long wait to have them come pick up things. And Laura mentioned George. I call George my schlepper, and he named his company Let George Do It. So for a small hourly fee, George will come and take whatever you have to donate and drive it to a Wider Circle. So you don't have to worry about waiting for them to come pick it up, or he can take it to wherever you need it to go. For instance, we just had a sale where we had some medical equipment and, you know, walkers and things like that, and we gave it to, I think it was it Easter Seals, or I forgot the name of the organization, but George is the one who knew about it, so my client was super happy.
Is he like listed somewhere so that you can call him?
In my phone, but I'm happy to share him with you. So anyway, what to do with all the stuff? Years and years of belongings, right? And where do you even begin? So, you know, if it starts small. How do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Howard's been going through this, right, Howard? One drawer at a time is where you start. His wife tells me every time she opens a new drawer, she thinks about me, because she thinks, I got to go through this drawer and downsize and declutter. So yeah, it's a humongous task. And if you don't have someone to help you, or even if you do, just start small. Start with a drawer, a closet. You know, separate things into different stacks, like things you're going to donate, things you're going to give away, what you want to keep, what may be going to a family member. Speaking of family members, we always think that our kids are going to want our china, right? And our silver. They don't want it. They definitely don't want it. And then a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just have a yard sale. Well, let me tell you, for the return you get on a yard sale, it's just not worth it. It's too much work, too much stress. If you really feel like you have things of value in your home, we can connect you with estate liquidators that can come in and take a look. And they'll be able to, at a glance, say, yes, this is worth having an estate sale, or no, there really isn't anything of value here. And that's when you think about donating. I talked about the categories of stuff that you want to go through. You know, keep and move, donate, what has sentimental value, what you want to trash. We have resources like George and 123 Junk and Move Managers that can help with all that. Now, if you're moving to a smaller space, obviously you're going to have to figure out what fits, like that favorite dining room table that you just don't want to give up. You've got to find a place or a way to make that fit, and a Move Manager or we can help you figure that out. So remember, the goal is to simplify. So we hope that this process will make you feel overjoyed rather than overwhelmed by taking it a step at a time and starting slow. So I'll turn it back over to Laura now.
So just one plug. We do monthly educational seminars. And in September, we're having a gentleman from For Sales, his name is Daniel Sanders, come and talk specifically about what items are valuable, what items in your home you may be able to sell.
We're calling it our Antiques Roadshow.
Right. And if you sign up ahead of time and provide us a photo, he will actually, and you can bring the item if it's small, or the photo, he'll actually give you a free estimate at that point and let you know. So you'll have something curious. But the more important thing is to hear directly from someone who does this for a living about what are these items that possibly might have value. And you might have something that you don't think has value and does, or that thing that you think is really worthwhile and you're holding on for that one grandchild who might take it, might be worth letting go.
I just wanted to mention that that event is September 21st at 11 o'clock at Lakewood Country Club in Rockville. You can see one of us to sign up for it, or you can go to capitalseniorsolutions.com, and there's a page under seminars where you can sign up.
Okay, so you made your plan, you took your time, you figured out where you were going to go, the call came, you made the move, you downsized. Actually, step 5 is really just celebrating like that you did it, that you stayed in control. No one told you what you had to do. I don't know about you, but I really don't like people telling me what to do. I like advice and counsel, but I like to make my own decisions. So this is the time to celebrate and to reflect on the fact that you no longer have that social isolation or that house is a burden or the health and wellness type issues. But there are 3 primary reasons why people are successful at this, adjusting. And just like there was 3 reasons to make the decision, there's 3 reasons that are gonna, you need to think about, like, are you at this place, that are gonna kind of guarantee that this is gonna be a good thing for you. First thing is your level of optimism, all right? Are you optimistic about this? Or are you like Eeyore? My kids are making me do this, I can't believe I have to move. It's not going to be a successful move if that's your attitude. If you're optimistic, if this is the decision that you have made and you're ready for this, that's going to help with, obviously, smooth it over. The support network. Did you have help along the way? Or are you absolutely exhausted at this point and you cannot believe you've done this? And that support network can be family, friends, you know, the team that's going to help you if you're moving into a community, a team like us that's going to help you. Just rely on them, ask questions, get the support you need. You don't have to be in this all alone. You don't have to be carrying boxes of books. This is my big thing, because I see this all the time. We all have too many books, and we think we have to box them up and find a way to get rid of them. It's exhausting. You're going to hurt your back. Like, you don't have to do that. There are people who can help you figure that out. And then lastly, your level of activity through this whole process. Is this your decision? Are you owning this decision? Are you keeping active? Are you part of this all? All of those 3 things are going to really help you adjust. And then once you get there, I'm sorry, I don't know why this has a green line on it. Once you're there, okay, like now is the time. Like, you don't have to worry about the gutters. So figure out that hobby that you've been wanting to do for a while, or take that field trip. I call them a field trip, like school, but we recommend that you keep a journal or a notebook handy during this process, either by your bedside or in your pocket, for 2 reasons. One, you're going to think of something, a question you want to ask, or something you need to do. Oh, I've got to stop the newspapers. Oh, I've got to call the gas company. And just jot it down so you don't have to think about it again. Or you are going to have that family member who swoops in and is bossing you around, and you want to be a little snippy with. So you can just write that all down too, right? And just get it out on paper versus being confrontational, because they're really trying to help. They just may not be going about it in the way that you would like. So I really think having a journal, keeping kind of that together is important. So that's the 5 steps. We can just walk through them again. Jan, you want to do that?
Yeah. So just to review the steps we've talked about today. Step 1, create your plan. Step 2, communicate with family and friends. Step 3, surround yourself with professionals. Step 4, dealing with all the stuff. That's probably the biggest one for most people. Who would say that that's the biggest concern you have? A lot of hands just went up. And then 5, of course, like Laura said, celebrating your lifestyle. So the question was, what if you find yourself moving into an assisted living facility and leaving your home behind? What happens to your home and all the stuff in it, and especially if you have no family members? Was that the question?
Yes.
So that's when you need to know the resources that can help you, starting with folks like me and Laura, perhaps a move manager, someone that can go through all of the things that are left behind. And if your wish is to sell the home, we can help with that as well. One thing that we do is complete project management from start to finish. We often work with, for instance, personal representatives or powers of attorney for someone who is maybe passed or has gone into assisted living and can no longer make decisions for themselves. And oftentimes these people are out of state. So we're here, we're the boots on the ground, and we can take care of everything as long as we have instructions and permission for people in situations like that. It's not uncommon to see that, actually. Another question from Zoom. The question was, are there any facilities which will accept pets? Yes, many of them do. Because, and Charles E. Smith Life Communities does as well. I mean, pets are such an emotional support, you know.
But that's a really good question for when you go look at communities, to ask that question, to see if are there size restrictions or number restrictions. But many communities view that as very important to their residents, and pets are allowed.
And one of the features in this Downsizing Made Easy guide, which we give to all our clients when we first meet with them, is questions to ask when you go on these tours. So we can help you with that. I think you had a question in the front. The comment was you should make a list of all your doctors, your advisors, any people that you count on to provide services to you, and share that with your family so they're aware should you become unable to provide it yourself. How many of you already have wills and estate plans and health directives? It's surprisingly how many people don't have that, and it's important, if you haven't thought about that, to think about getting that set up. And then once you have it set up, you definitely want to give copies to your family, your beneficiaries, and then keep it all in a safe place, not in a safe deposit box. I've been told by attorneys that once you pass, it's impossible to get into a safe deposit box to get anything out of it. So maybe a fireproof box that you keep in your den or a closet. The question was, do facilities, or communities rather, we don't use the F word, they're communities, not facilities, communities. For those that accept pets, do they assist with dog walking and things like that? I will let Angelique speak to Charles E. Smith, but of the ones that we're aware of, that you're on your own for that. But there are services that will come and walk dogs in senior communities. I forgot the name of the one we met recently. Walk in the Park, yeah. So there are services who will do that. What's the policy here, Angelique? No. The question was, I don't know if everyone heard, but for the benefit of those on Zoom, I'll give you a synopsis of the question. Her mom has made several downsizing moves, and now at the age of 91, she's wondering how to deal with helping her make decisions that might make more sense. That's one of the reasons Laura and I got the Certified Senior Downsizing Coach designation, because oftentimes if you get a third party to go in and talk to an individual, we might be able to pull things out of them that a family member wouldn't, or they might be willing to share things with us that they may not share with a family member. It's a tough situation, certainly. And if she's cognitively aware, she would be open to coaching, hopefully. So that's something to consider.
Right. The other thing is, sometimes we run into situations where maybe the family is seeing it, and maybe we're seeing what potentially could be cognitive decline. And you know, we're not therapists. However, we do have relationships with care managers, and we might recommend to the family that they bring a care manager in to do an evaluation. And again, a third party, independent, to talk to them and help kind of come up with a plan before they make another, you know, if you're concerned, rash decision. But you know, a professional at that point probably is the right step.
And that was called a
care manager. And let us, we can recommend several people you could talk to.
Well, thank you all for coming today. I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll enjoy the resources we've provided to you. And again, we look forward to your feedback and possibly seeing you at future seminars. And thank you so much to Charles E. Smith Life Communities and their entire staff for hosting this event. You all have a great day.
Thank you.